My name is Charl Johan Lingenfelder. I'm a composer, a musical director and sometimes filmmaker as well. My road into the arts was inevitable. I always felt I was different. I felt to a large extent that I didn't fit in. That only came later, the realization that I don't really fit in. But there was safety in the arts. There was a community. As a matter of fact, I actually started doing ballet when I was 4 years old, before I knew anything else. It was only much later that I realized that people were looking at me in a strange way and frowning upon my doings, because I was what we call in Afrikaans a laatlammetjie. So I used to entertain myself at home the whole time. So I started playing piano when I was very young. So I was always in the arts. It was part of my life. It was only much later that I realized that there was a group of people who were similar to me, who all wanted to be together, and that's where we could flourish, was in this world called the arts, which was the drama and the music and the dancing. This question about whether arts education is important, I always find that the question should be is why are we having this question? Because it's inevitable that the arts is fundamental to developing full-rounded people. If you look into the future, nobody can predict what the future is going to be. In 50 years' time, we don't know where we're going to be. It was much easier, say like in 1921, to say what the world was going to be 50 years in advance than now in 2021. What we do know is that change is going to be involved. A lot of change is going to be involved. The best thing we can offer a future generation is adaptability, because that is what we all are going to need in terms of becoming people who can function in society. And that is fundamentally what creativity is all about. And the creativity comes from the arts. So once you have access to creativity, you can become an adaptive person who can take your surroundings and make it and turn it into something else. And that, I think, is what is most important about the arts. The arts is about imagination. It's about expressing yourself. And that is what we need in the world for the future, is how to take the skill set we've got and adapt to the times around us. If you look through the ages, it's always interesting. There's always this like mindset, or the perception is, there's a mindset of there's a stream of scientists and technicians and people like that, and number crunchers and mathematicians who are these brilliant inventors. And on the other side you have the artists who are brilliant in what they do again. But what people forget, that there's a sweet spot in the middle where the two meet. And if we look at some of the greatest thinkers of our times, there's no question they dabbled in both worlds. And I think that is the ultimate thing that we want. If you look, let's start with Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, what more of an example do you need? The greatest inventor of our times, was also one of the greatest artists and musician, and. Einstein was a violinist. You know, if you look at an amount of pop stars today who are astrophysicists and stuff like that, and it's nothing strange. That is becoming the norm. It is exactly the way in which the arts functions. The two just feed into each other. So I think, you know, I'm all about skill development. I think that the more skills you can have, it's like having a palette of colors when you're an artist. The more colors you have, the more you can give expression to your imagination. And it's the same with skills. If you have access to understanding how maths work, or understanding how art works, or just visual art works, painting, for example, you are already opening doors in your mind to give expression to what you want to do. You know, as a musician, for example, the first time anybody who sat down at a piano or any musical instrument and your two hands are sort of like stupidly staring at the notes, you have no idea what to do with them. And it takes time for your left hand to be separate from your right hand, to go, your brain goes, oh, I'm going to do this while this hand's going to be doing this. And then later we start adding feet in. And the important thing that happens with that is neural paths are being built in the brain. And the moment you start doing it, the brain goes, oh my goodness, I can do that. I have access to that. And that is how the brain starts learning. And the more neural paths you build, the more options you have. And that's what we want. We want options. So when I'm stuck in a corner with an idea, something that was sparked by something I did in music maybe will lead my thoughts down a path that might go, that's it, I've got it. That's how we're going to fix it. And I believe that is what the arts and the creativity and all of the things just make a whole. It's one big whole, and we shouldn't even have to discuss it. It is just the way it is meant to be. When I started out, I went to study music, and specifically musicology at the University of Stellenbosch, wanting to do drama. So there was a huge frustration in me because I had to do something, but I actually wanted to do something else. So what I was doing was splitting my time between the conserve where you study music and the drama department. I befriended all the people there. So within months, I was already involved in drama productions. I just sort of migrated. So most drama students didn't even know that I wasn't a student there. And this just continued over the years. And eventually it got to the point where my musical studies were being neglected. And I was struggling to keep everything up because I was getting so involved in the drama department. So eventually, a long story short, in my final year, the university finally agreed to make me drop one of my music subjects and replace that with an entire drama course. So I had to do the entire drama course to replace like 2 credits. The reason I'm saying this is like, don't feel scared or don't feel despondent if you cannot figure out the one thing that you want to do. Sometimes our abilities are of such that we are people with various skills, with various tastes, with various things, and the future is about different skill sets and combinations of different skill sets. I've continued doing this. So I've always felt like a jack of all trades, master of none. And at first it worried me because everybody's like, you have to be a master at something. And then I suddenly realized eventually, like, no, that is not important for me. For me, it's like what I'm bringing to the world is, I'm a person who looks at things from different sides. I look at it as a musician. I look at it as a writer. I look at it as a former actor, as a singer, as a dancer, whatever it might be. I look at it a different way and bring it all together and present it to you in a new way. That is what I do. And hopefully you are going to look at that and go like, oh my word, I've never seen it expressed in such a way, or whatever it is. And take that, and your life becomes enriched. And you then take whatever you got from that and interpret it into something and push it that way, and other people. That's how we pass it on. And that's how the arts work. We keep on inspiring. Sometimes when you see a painting, you go, oh, it's a painting. And you hold it up next to a photo and you go, oh, it's just like that. But as you start developing a skill set or understanding of how art works, and you understand the layering that goes in, the time and the skills, the technique of knowing how to mix paint and how to work with perspective and things like that, your mind gets boggled. And the first time you walk into an international museum or art gallery and you see the great masters on the walls, your breath will be taken away, because it's not the same as just scrolling through a lot of images on Google. And it's the same as when you walk into a concert hall and you see a symphony orchestra performing. It's not the same as just hearing it on a YouTube video with subtitles underneath. It's a very, very different situation. And I think the generation from today, they have this enormous gift that's been given to them, and that's access to information. They have access to so much, they can do anything with it. You can find anything that you want to do. The question is, what are you going to do with that? That is the question ultimately. And the arts is there for you to use your inventiveness and your creativity. You don't have to become an artist ultimately. You can still become an engineer. You can still become a mathematician. But if you have access to art, it will 100% guarantee make you a greater person at whatever it is that you ultimately are going to do. Because that means that you have the ability to be inventive, creative, and come up with solutions to problems in ways that other people will never have. My dream for arts education for the future would be that we break down the barriers between genres and break down the barriers between subjects and things like that, that we start understanding how integration works in life. You know, nobody thinks about, when you and I think, we sit at home and we're alone, there's this crazy thing happening in our brain called thinking. Nobody questions that. But if you were not from Earth and you weren't a human being, you would go, that's a crazy thing that's happening there. There's this thing in your mind that's constantly busy and that's completely removed from reality. So if we can accept things like that, why do we have to have discussions about the importance of arts and stuff like that? Because it's absolutely clear and integral in my life, for example. If I look at when I write music, I cannot remove the fact that composing music is 100% linked to mathematics. I feel it all the time, I know it, I can see it in front of me, like the numbers, I can see the symmetry in the music and all of that. It is absolutely mathematics. And if I didn't have a passion for maths as well, maybe I would have been a very different composer. I don't think I would have been better or worse, but I would have been different. And I think that's what I'm constantly doing is skills development, and for myself is constantly learning new things. And I think for students for the future, I would hope to see that they're encouraged to first and foremost give expression to themselves in whatever way it is that the child needs, and that each child's needs can be addressed. I know it's very difficult in a school environment when you have so many pupils, but it's to spot those individuals who do need the encouragement to know that they can be who they want to be, and if they want to write in this way, or if they want to do something in an expressive way in one of the arts subjects, that they can go ahead and do that. You know, the science and the things like that, stick to the numbers, stick to what it is, but also be flexible and knowing that ultimately there's change involved with everything. Everything is about change. So no matter how much science we learn, I know the fact that the amount of science I learned at school that I look at now and I go, and it's changed. And my teacher told me it was going to change. And that is fine, because that is what was important at the time. The world is changing constantly. We are discovering new things the whole time. Open your minds to the idea of change is something that is real, and that the facts and the information that we are getting from schools at the moment is something that we have to be able to discern what is important information, what is unimportant information for me, and take from that packets and create a global picture of the world that serves me ultimately. And that is what education should do, is give you the tools to know how to pick the important packets that end up making your world picture.